Good morning, Snakezilla here again. What have we got? Number one snake is Mika on 30 odd thousand. I'll try and get to number one snake. See how far we get. God, there's some free food. Where are we? Oh, a big kill here. Hey, lucky, a bit of early luck here, maybe. I think. Be careful not to kill myself. Oh man. Yeah, I always find that you kind of, it's a risky time when there's been a big kill. There's lots of food around. People race for that food, and it's a bit like a soccer game. They always say when I say soccer, I should say football. I do say football normally, but I think I've started saying soccer to appease the American audience. But anyway, yeah, I think football teams are most at risk just after they have scored, and I think that's similar with this game where there's been a sort of big kill. There's food in abundance. People scramble for that food and take on more risk, and that's when I think you are more likely to die. So if you come onto the board like I just did, and you say get to 5,000 very quickly, I think you're at a very high risk of being killed. Because you're excited, you're in a really highly excitable state, and yeah, you tend to race after the food and fall into unforced errors. There's that number 2 snake. Look at that. I was saying the other day, most if you give yourself a rude name on this game, that name will probably be redacted. It doesn't accept swear words or rude words, but this guy, fuck you all, has circumvented that. So, PHAKYUAL. Very clever, very rude. So, normally, if you'd spelt that the proper way, the name would be redacted, you wouldn't be able to see it. But what we were talking about yesterday was the ADHD, actually. And we were talking about two of the neural pathways in the brain, the default mode network, which is kind of responsible for a relaxed, daydreamy state, and the task positive network, which is more responsible for focus and being on task, essentially, as the name indicates, task positive network. But I alluded to, very briefly, and said I'd probably leave it for another video, which I think should be this video, alluded to dopamine. So it's not just sufficient to have these two networks, and normally people are able to sort of seesaw between task positive network and the default mode network. But I think that's largely regulated by dopamine, as I understand it. And again, I should point out, very early on, I am not a medical professional. I'm not trained in any way. I'm just riffing here, so do not take anything that I say as medical advice. It's just me riffing. That's all. Take it for what it is. Okay, let's just a bit of a feed here. I'm going to go out here and sort of rest a bit whilst I talk. So, yeah, dopamine, as I understand it, now I'm being chased, so I'm going to be able to talk as I want to. It's a neurotransmitter in the brain which plays a significant role in the pathology of ADHD. I always just call it dopamine dysregulation. I think that's a thing. But more specifically, in relation to these two neural pathways, I just wanted to talk about that because I believe, and there is something called the dopamine, what is it called? The dopamine deficiency hypothesis. I think this is a widely accepted thing, which says that people with ADHD have lower levels of dopamine or inefficient dopamine signaling in the brain. Let's get rid of you. No, is he a smart snake or a dumb snake? Probably a smart snake. What am I now? Number 6. So dopamine is like a key that unlocks that sort of attention, motivation, pleasure, and reward. Oh, I'm going to get wrapped here if I'm not careful, I think. Yeah, I need to concentrate a bit more on what I'm doing. This snake is called X, in homage to, perhaps, Twitter. Probably not. I have noticed a few snakes on this game that just have the name letter, so they'll just be L or M or choose a letter. I don't know why. Easy, I guess, although you don't have to give yourself a name, obviously. So may as well just keep it blank. Or maybe they're a team, actually, so they identify each other by that letter. Who knows? Where am I going? I think I should find a different part of the board. Let's go across. Try and go across. I'm demonstrating here that I'm unable to do more than one thing at a time. I can't concentrate on play and think about what I'm trying to say at the same time. Obviously, it's because I'm not a trained neuroscientist, which a trained neuroscientist would probably be able to riff until their heart's content whilst becoming number one snake very easily. So what we're saying really is that some brains have a really messy way of expediting dopamine to the brain. In other words, I presume the sort of microarchitecture of each brain is different. What if, for example, when someone with ADHD wants to study, which, as we said before, requires the task-positive network, dopamine is instead delivered to the default mode network. I mean, that's a problem. There is a dopamine dysregulation problem there, which I guess is the this dopamine deficiency hypothesis. But I'm inclined to believe that it may not be so much with the amount of dopamine, although it could be true, but how it is distributed across the brain's architecture. And again, I'm just riffing here, so let me know in the comments whether I'm just talking absolute rubbish. Oh. So instead of being motivated to study, dopamine dysregulation would essentially make that person motivated to daydream. That's a real problem, and I guess that's could be what procrastination is. You're not getting enough dopamine into that task positive network. I'm sure there is research that's been done on this. I don't have access to scientific papers, but and yeah, I'm really not a scientist. So please, if you are, and you do know more about this than me, yeah, put it in the comments in plain English as well, not using language that inverted commas normal people would not understand, unless that is the only way you can communicate. But for us mere mortals, we get blinded by science very easily. So it's a bit of a grim thought, really. I do believe, however, that there have been brain imaging studies done which show differences in the dopamine system of individuals with ADHD, and they reveal reduced dopamine activity in key regions of the brain. So I presume that means the task-positive network. So if you're not getting enough dopamine to that task-positive network, and instead it's going to the default mode network, that's a real problem for doing stuff that you need to get done. So this is a problem which, the solution to which is going to be different per individual. But for me, personally, diary management is key. He says, playing Sliver. But what I found is that it just takes longer. Just takes longer for me to focus in on a task. So I swear by really, a diary. So if I need to get something done, I don't sort of hope somehow that I'm just going to do it. It has to be in the diary. I put it in the diary. I run my life by my diary. And when it's time to do that task, I know that there's a chance that I might sit down and not get started straight away. But as long as it's in the diary, I've then committed that time to sit down, and I start very slowly, very small, and always find that eventually that task-positive network does eventually kick in. So it's my belief that, dopamine dysregulation is not necessarily a problem with the amount of dopamine, but just the way it's delivered to the brain. And I think it just takes longer for dopamine to be delivered to the correct neural pathways. There's a problem, but it's a problem that unfortunately just needs to be managed per individual. So yeah, that's my thoughts on dopamine. Again, I could be completely wrong on dopamine quantities. It makes sense that there are different amounts of dopamine synthesized for each individual, but I believe, and I'm happy to be proven completely wrong on this, that the sort of, architecture of those dopamine pathways, are they called? Or the way it's delivered to different parts of the brain is more the problem than the quantity of dopamine itself. Because personally, I force myself to do things by having it in the diary, and I find that I can feel it. I can experience that slow kind of focus building up as the dopamine is delivered more towards the task positive network rather than the relaxed state of the default mode network. Anyway, that's my riff on dopamine. Clearly, I'm getting a bit of a dopamine high off what I'm doing right now. So let's see if we can just build up our pointage. What are we? Number 3 snake. Okay. We can do this. We can get to number... We need another 10,000 odd points. Whoa! Jeez, this hands forward, hands fed. He's just accumulated 7,000 points very quickly there. I don't know what happened. Maybe it was a big kill somewhere. Let me go somewhere else and do some looping. I don't really want to go after big... Oh god, okay, Elento is now number 2 snake. You're going to come after me? You're a hunter. Hunters ruin your day. Oh god, what the hell? This feels risky. Where we are. So top left. I need to find a part of the board where I can take the coward's way out and loop around robots. Okay, look, we're actually not far off number 1, because the number 1 snake seems as though they got killed. No, this is not good. I'm operating in a very sparse area of the board here. This is not going to happen like this. Picking off. Oh god, now look, we've got this guy come to ruin our day. Nice name. You will die. It's like a release valve. Making myself larger, distributed over a larger area. God, I nearly killed myself then. Okay. Okay, I need to be more aggressive really, or else this is not going to happen. Let's try and wrap this guy using a very large birth. Is this top snake? No, number 2 snake this is. Wait!